For 12 years, a mother lived in mourning. Her husband and teenage daughter vanished during a quiet weekend sail. No storm, no distress call, just their boat drifting back, engine running, food untouched, life jackets gone. The world told her it was an accident. The ocean took them. There was nothing left to find. But she never believed it. Then, more than a decade later, a single blurry video from another country landed on her phone, and everything she thought she knew collapsed in seconds. Because the people she buried might not be dead, and the truth behind their disappearance was far more disturbing than any shipwreck. What she discovered next would force her to cross an ocean and confront a betrayal she was never meant to survive. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Like the video if you believe these stories deserve to be told. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. Your support keeps this channel alive and helps bring hidden truths into the light. Daniel Moore had spent his entire life learning how to disappear in plain sight. He was born on October 11, 1961, in Norfolk, Virginia, a city built around naval docks and quiet routines. His father worked long shifts as a shipyard mechanic. His mother packed lunches at a public elementary school just a few blocks from their home. They were not a loud family, not an affectionate one either, but they were dependable. Church on Sundays. Dinner at the same time every night. No surprises. Daniel was the youngest of 3 boys, and from early on, he learned that being quiet meant being overlooked, and being overlooked meant being safe. At school, he was described as polite, disciplined, observant. Never disruptive. Never exceptional. Teachers struggled to remember him once he left the room. One counselor once wrote in his file, "Daniel notices more than he says." At the time, it sounded like praise. Years later, it would feel like a warning no one understood. After graduating high school in 1979, Daniel didn't wait around. With no scholarship offers and no interest in staying behind, he enlisted in the United States Navy at just 18 years old. Within a year, he was deployed as a radar systems technician, serving aboard aircraft carriers during Cold War patrols in the Pacific. For 2 decades, Daniel did exactly what was expected of him. No more, no less. He wasn't ambitious. He never chased promotions. He never caused trouble. He stayed at the same rank for years, quietly earning the reputation commanders liked most: reliable. The kind of man who followed orders, kept his head down, and asked no questions. His fellow servicemen noticed something else too. Daniel didn't drink. He didn't gamble. He didn't talk about his past. And no one knew what he did when he wasn't on duty. He married once during his early years in service, a woman named Laura Fields, who worked in naval logistics. Their marriage was brief and childless. When Laura died from ovarian cancer in the mid-1990s, Daniel took extended leave and returned changed, quieter, colder, more withdrawn than before. No one asked questions. Daniel didn't offer answers. When he retired from the Navy in 1999, he didn't go back to Virginia. Instead, he relocated to Charleston, South Carolina, a coastal city where naval veterans blended easily into the background and boats were everywhere. He rented a modest 1-bedroom apartment, picked up part-time work repairing boat engines, and enrolled in night classes for marine maintenance. The marina owner who hired him later described Daniel as the most punctual man I ever met. He never smiled much, never complained, never explained himself. And that's how he met Evelyn Moore. At a small Baptist church one spring morning, Evelyn noticed him sitting alone in the back pew. She was a widowed single mother, raising her daughter Lena after being abandoned years earlier by Lena's biological father. Daniel was polite, reserved. He didn't flirt. He didn't rush. He simply showed up. Lunches after church turned into quiet conversations. Weeks became months. To Evelyn, Daniel felt like stability, something solid after years of emotional uncertainty. He was never late, never raised his voice, never argued about parenting. He didn't try to replace Lena's father. In fact, he rarely mentioned him at all. That restraint made him feel safe. By the time they married in 2004, everyone around Evelyn believed she had finally found the right man. A calm man, a patient man, a man who wouldn't leave. But what no one realized, not Evelyn, not the church, not the neighbors, was that Daniel Moore had been practicing patience his entire life, and he had never once left a trace. At first, Daniel Moore did everything right. He never tried to step into the role of a father too quickly. He didn't discipline Lena. He didn't lecture her. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he stayed just far enough away to seem respectful, helping with homework when asked, fixing things around the house, listening more than he spoke. To Evelyn, it felt like balance. Lena's biological father had vanished before she could form memories of him. No calls, no letters, just absence. So when Daniel entered their lives calm, steady, and predictable, Evelyn believed she had finally given her daughter something stable, something safe. The wedding was small, simple, barely 30 people. Lena sat quietly in the front pew, pink dress, hands folded in her lap. She didn't smile for the photos. She didn't cry either. She just watched. Evelyn noticed, but she didn't worry. Change didn't come all at once. It never does. It started with small moments. Daniel fixing a loose step without being asked. Daniel waiting outside Lena's room until she finished brushing her teeth. Daniel thanking her when she helped carry groceries. Tiny gestures that seemed harmless, even kind. Then one evening, Lena called him Dad. Evelyn felt tears well up instantly. Daniel didn't react. He didn't smile. He didn't correct her. He simply nodded and passed her the salt. That restraint made the moment feel sincere. From then on, things shifted. Family photos became trios instead of pairs. Lena stopped asking questions about the father who left. At school, she drew pictures of boats on the ocean, always with 3 figures on board. One drawing, folded carefully into a notebook, read, "Me, my mom, and my dad. We don't sink." Evelyn kept it for years. When Daniel suggested taking Lena sailing after school, Evelyn didn't hesitate. She thought it was healthy. Fresh air, bonding, a shared hobby between a father figure and a growing girl. At first, it was once a week, then twice, then 3 times. They'd leave in the afternoon and return just before sunset. Daniel always had explanations. The tide shifted. The wind slowed them down. They lost track of time. Lena never complained. In fact, she seemed calmer afterward. Quieter, more focused. She began speaking less about school friends and more about the ocean. She asked for boat shoes instead of toys, marine binoculars instead of birthday parties. Her teachers noticed changes too. "She's very observant," one said. "Mature beyond her years," another added. Evelyn took pride in that. She believed structure was shaping her daughter into someone strong. She didn't notice what Lena stopped doing. She stopped attending youth group. She stopped sleeping over at friends' houses. She started locking her bedroom door. Evelyn told herself it was adolescence. One evening, while tidying Lena's room, Evelyn found a small notebook tucked between books. No lock, no label, just worn blue paper. She opened it to the first page she saw. "The sea feels safer than land." The sentence wasn't poetic. It wasn't decorative. It felt final. Evelyn didn't read further. She put the notebook back exactly where she found it. That night, she mentioned it to Daniel. His response was immediate and calm. "She's sensitive. The water relaxes her. Better than being glued to her phone like other kids." Evelyn nodded. She trusted him. But from that point on, something in the house changed. The marina became their place. Not Evelyn's. Not family space. When she suggested joining them, Lena suddenly had schoolwork. Daniel offered to take her alone. They always came back later than promised. When Evelyn hugged her daughter, Lena's arms hesitated before returning the embrace. When asked about her day, her answers were shorter, careful. Then one afternoon, Evelyn opened the coat closet and noticed a backpack she didn't recognize. Rugged, waterproof, not a school bag. Daniel said it belonged to a friend. Evelyn didn't argue. But that night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the sentence she couldn't forget. "The sea feels safer than land." She didn't know it yet, but by the time she began to understand what was happening inside her own home, the plan had already been set in motion, and it was moving quietly, just the way Daniel Moore always had. August 10th, 2010 began like every other sailing trip. The sky over Charleston Harbor was clear. The water was calm. No storms. No warnings. No reason to hesitate. At 6:40 a.m., Daniel Moore untied the ropes and eased the boat away from the dock. Lena sat near the bow, wearing a gray hoodie over her swimsuit. She waved once, not to anyone in particular, and then they disappeared around the bend. Evelyn watched from the porch in her robe, coffee cooling in her hands. She reminded Daniel to check in before dark. He gave the same familiar half-smile and promised they'd be back by Sunday evening. They had taken this exact trip before, 6 times that year alone. Nothing felt wrong. Friday passed quietly. Evelyn cleaned the house, folded laundry, and prepared Lena's favorite meal, planning to freeze it for their return. Saturday came and went without a call, but Daniel often lost signal offshore. Evelyn told herself not to worry. By Sunday night, the house felt different. The sun went down. No headlights in the driveway. No footsteps on the porch. She called Daniel's phone. Straight to voicemail. Then Lena's. Same result. She stayed awake all night, sitting on the couch with the porch light on, convincing herself of reasonable explanations. Engine trouble. An overnight dock. A delayed return. At 4:30 a.m. Monday morning, she called the Coast Guard. Less than 2 hours later, a private fishing charter reported an unmanned boat drifting roughly 12 miles offshore. By 7:18 a.m., authorities confirmed the registration. It was Daniel's boat. When they boarded it, nothing made sense. The engine was still running at idle. The cooler was full, sandwiches untouched, water bottles sealed. 2 apples sat unbitten. Lena's flip-flops were tucked neatly under the seat. The emergency beacon hadn't been activated. No blood. No damage. No sign of a struggle. The life jackets were gone. Evelyn was notified just before 9 a.m. She answered every question clearly. What were they wearing? Did they know how to swim? Had either mentioned feeling sick or scared? She didn't cry. She kept repeating the same thing. Daniel was experienced. He didn't take risks. Lena wore her life jacket every time. The search began immediately. Boats, helicopters, divers, volunteers. For 3 days, the water was combed relentlessly. Nothing surfaced. No bodies. No debris. Not even a shoe. Eventually, the Coast Guard suspended the search. The case was marked presumed lost at sea. But Evelyn couldn't accept it. The boat hadn't been damaged. The supplies hadn't been used. There was no distress call. No panic. No accident. It felt less like a tragedy and more like an exit. Detectives examined Daniel's background. His Navy records were clean. No disciplinary issues. No mental health flags. His bank accounts showed no unusual withdrawals. No new insurance policies. No sudden financial movements. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Nothing was wrong. And yet, everything was gone. The media called it a mystery. The town held vigils. Lena's school placed a memorial bench near the science wing. Friends brought food. Church members prayed. Evelyn stayed silent. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. On February 5, 2011, Daniel Moore and Lena Moore were legally declared dead. Evelyn signed the papers with steady hands. But when she returned home, she didn't pack Lena's room away. She didn't move Daniel's things. She left the bedroom untouched. Boots by the door. Watch on the nightstand. Bedmate. For 12 years, she lit a candle every August. Because deep down, something never stopped whispering. They didn't drown. They left. And one day, she would learn why. For 12 years, Evelyn Moore lived inside a pause. Life moved forward around her, but she remained frozen, sleeping on one side of the bed, keeping the porch light on at night, lighting a single candle every August for 2 people the ocean never returned. Friends moved away. Church attendance thinned. Conversations stopped, including her future. Because how do you plan a future when the past never closed? Then, on May 7, 2022, everything broke open. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when Evelyn's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. A message from Paula Henderson, an old college friend who traveled often. No warning. No explanation. Just a short video clip with a casual text beneath it. This festival is wild. Thought of you. Evelyn tapped play without thinking. Music filled the screen. Bright colors. Dancers spinning through a crowded street lined with palm trees and paper lanterns. It looked like joy. Unfamiliar, distant. Then, About 10 seconds in, the camera shifted. In the background, slightly blurred, almost easy to miss, a man and a woman danced closely. His arm rested around her waist. Her head leaned toward his shoulder. They laughed. Evelyn's breath stopped. The man was older now, broader. A thick gray beard covered his face. But the posture, the way he stood, the rhythm of his movement, it was unmistakable. It was Daniel. And the woman beside him wasn't a stranger. She had aged. She was no longer a teenager. But the tilt of her head, the shape of her smile, the way she moved, Evelyn knew it in her bones. It was Lena. Alive. Together. Evelyn watched the clip again. And again. She zoomed in until the image blurred into pixels, but the truth didn't blur with it. This wasn't hope. This wasn't imagination. It was recognition. They hadn't drowned. They hadn't been taken. They had left, together. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She sat at the table and let the silence swallow her whole. Every memory replayed at once. The sailing trips, the locked doors, the journal entry she never forgot. The sea feels safer than land. In the days that followed, Evelyn moved through life like a ghost. She went to work. She smiled when expected. She spoke when spoken to. But her mind was already somewhere else, on a coastline thousands of miles away. She booked a one-way flight. She didn't tell her church. She didn't tell her coworkers. She packed light and withdrew cash. For the first time in 12 years, she stopped waiting and started moving. Ecuador greeted her with heat, noise, and color. From the capital, she took a long bus ride to a small coastal town that matched the background of the video. Red lanterns, blue shutters, a bakery on the corner. And eventually, she found them. They lived quietly. New names, new routines. No one asked questions. Locals described them as private, polite, unremarkable. He fixed boats. She taught English. They walked the beach together in the evenings. Evelyn watched from a distance. She saw the way Lena still glanced toward Daniel before reacting. The way his hand rested possessively at her back. The way they moved like people who had practiced being alone together. One afternoon, Evelyn saw him kiss her. Not like a father. Not like protection. Like a partner. In that moment, the last trace of denial disappeared. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't manipulation she could explain away. This was a choice, made years ago and lived every day since. Evelyn didn't feel lost anymore. She felt awake. On May 30th, 2022, as the sun dipped low over the village, Evelyn stepped out from the shadows and walked toward the life that had been built on her absence. And for the first time since the boat drifted back without them, the silence finally had an ending. This wasn't just a disappearance. It was a betrayal disguised as tragedy. A mother erased from her own life. A child pulled across a line that should never be crossed. And a man who turned patience into possession, quietly, deliberately, without ever leaving a trace. For 12 years, Evelyn mourned two people she believed were dead. She lit candles. She froze time. She lived among ghosts. But the truth was far crueler. They weren't taken by the sea. They weren't victims of fate. They chose each other and left her behind to grieve alone. So the question this story leaves us with isn't simple. Was this justice? Was it vengeance? Or was it the inevitable collapse of a lie that survived for too long? I want to know what you think. Would you have confronted them? Could you have forgiven them? Or do you believe some betrayals destroy forgiveness forever? Share your thoughts in the comments. If stories like this make you stop, think, and question the truth behind what we're told, support this channel by liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. It helps us keep telling the stories others try to bury. Because some secrets don't stay hidden forever. They just wait for the right moment to surface.